Good afternoon, New Bedford. This is Mike from New Bedford Guide. We are here for the final Ward 2, we'll call it a forum tonight. It's not a debate. Edwin Cartagena has declined to come tonight. He went down to Puerto Rico, busy, and he's not going to be here tonight. So he was invited. He declined to come. So we're going to here tonight to talk to Maria Giesta, who has shown up tonight. So Maria, you're given a 3-minute opening statement, then we'll ask some questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much. First, I want to thank New Bedford Guide for inviting me here this evening, and also to the viewers who are watching. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Ward 2 Councillor Steve Martins for his work and dedication to the residents of Ward 2. And finally, to those residents of Ward 2 who voted for me on October 3rd, thank you very much. I really appreciate your vote. As it's been stated, my name is Maria Giesta, and I'm running to be your Ward 2 councillor. I grew up in Ward 2. I went to school in Ward 2, and I live there with my family. As I have said from the beginning of this campaign, that the #1 issue for the residents in Ward 2 is public safety, and that is why I believe we need to reinstate the community policing program. As of now, there are only 3 police officers in that program, and we need to expand that to 8 to 10 police officers with a supervisor also. I believe we need to have better and brighter lighting and also cameras in high crime areas. I had the pleasure of meeting the new captain of Precinct 3, Captain Amos Mello, who met with us at the Episcopal Church on Belleville Road. He was very good at explaining to the residents of what's been going on in the city, how they've been trying to fight the crime that is going on. So I would recommend to the residents of Ward 2 that instead of calling 911, please call Precinct 3 and talk to the police officers there, because I believe it's very important that we are engaged as a community. I also want people to know that Ward 2 is not just about crime. It's about a great community with great people who live there and work there and raise their families. You know, I think it's important that we have a vibrant and important downtown, but, you know, Ward 2 contributes a lot of revenue for the city, and that includes Krishna Avenue and Ashley Boulevard and Belleville Avenue and Sawyer Street. So it's great that we have AHA Night downtown, but let's expand that throughout the city, and maybe places like Acushnet Avenue could also take advantage of programs like that. So that's a few of the things that I'd like to see done and what I'd like to work on. So again, thank you very much for checking in, and if you have any questions, I'm available. And please don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk some of the issues you just mentioned. So we did a couple of, I'm hoping these are going to continue after the elections. We've done the walkarounds with the mayor and the chief of police, and we did one with Mello to introduce into the north end. And there was a big thing with the lights, and then the police have the camera program. You can register your camera, and if the police see a crime, they're just going to ask you to use it. What would you do, you think, successfully to get people to commit to those kind of programs, to put more lighting out there, to register their cameras so the police have a new tool to prosecute some of the criminals?
Right. Well, I think it's a beginning of what we're doing. I think there's a fear of people becoming engaged. You know, they fear are they going to get into trouble with some of the elements of crime in the area. I think a lot of them probably don't even know about the programs. I think we need to do a better job in letting them know what kind of programs there are out there that the police have started, like with the cameras and the lighting and things like that. And I think that's why it's very important that the community policing program be reinstated. 3 police officers are not enough. It's great that we have the walk and talk program, but that's just not enough. It's not enough for just a police officer to come out for a half hour and walk around an area that is huge. You know, the North End is a huge area, and I think people have this tendency to believe that the North End is only from Coggeshall Street north, and it's not. So we need to do a better job in making sure that people know about these programs, and I think the community policing program is one of those things that could really help with letting a lot of the store owners know that we have such programs like that.
So we had a question earlier, I grabbed from the internet, from Craig. He works at New Bedford Live.
Right.
He's a good guy in that area, always there. He asked, well, you know, you mentioned, I think, some topics, but what's your vision for Krishna Avenue? It's a business district, you know, probably the biggest one in the city, if not, you know, close to downtown in size. What do you have a vision for that? Is it good now? Something you're going to change? I mean, you mentioned like bringing kind of an aha thing, but what would you say your vision is for Krishna Avenue?
Well, I think, you know, we need to help them clean up the area. I mean, at Krishna Avenue, if you drive along, it has a lot of garbage on the streets, and I know that the city is trying its best to have, you know, the trucks come through and clean it up. I think there was a program at one time to help with the refacing of the buildings, and I don't think that program exists anymore, and I think we need to look into that, and that would help with a lot of the businesses, you know, maybe expanding their business, maybe trying to make the storefront look better and more engaging. I wouldn't mind seeing something like AHA Night happening on Acushnet Avenue. You know, I belong to the committee of the Day of Portugal, and as you know, we shut down the streets for that weekend, and I think that would be something that we can do along Acushnet Avenue and bring more people to the avenue rather than just down the downtown area. Banners, you know, let's put some banners out on the businesses announcing what, you know, they do, and you know, promote Acushnet Avenue through that way. So I think we need to engage the businesses and find out from them what they would like to see, how we, or how I as a city ward councillor can help them, you know, build their business or create more business in the area.
Yeah, we don't want to define Ward 2 only as crime. You have beautiful Acushnet River,
Right.
you have a park, Riverside, you have a lot of stuff, but we'll bring up one of the biggest issues, prostitution and crime. For businesses to succeed and for residents to feel safe, you know, Ward 2 is going to need a lot of work,
Right.
Even though we have the new police chief doing a lot, new commander in the north. What is your priority? What are some of the things you'll do to help clean up the prostitution and crime?
Well, again, it's about the community policing program. You know, we need to have police officers out there on a daily basis, you know, communicating with the residents, finding out. You know, we know where the problems are. One of the things I'd like to look at, and I talked to before, is Section 8. You know, I support Section 8. I'm not here to trash the program. I believe it's a very good program, but I also think it's been abused. And, you know, there's the absentee landlords, or, you know, slumlords, whatever you want to call them. I want to make sure that there's a distinction between landlords and then the slumlords. And yeah, I mean, prostitution, I think the reason why there is so much prostitution is because a lot of these young women are addicts, and there comes in the whole issue of the opioid addiction. You know, these women are out there selling their bodies so they can have the money to buy the drugs for themselves or their boyfriends that are usually their pimp. So it's a vicious cycle, and I really do believe that people need to be more engaged in their community. We know that if people are out there calling the police and letting them know that a crime has happened, don't call 911, please don't do that, but call, you know, Precinct 3 and Ward 2, and that was one of the things that Captain Mello said, you know, please call us, let us know, because you are the eyes and ears of the community. And I think that's one of the things that needs to be done, is that the community needs to be engaged. You know, you look at Kenny Resendiz, who runs the Bullitt Street neighborhood group, and Joy, you know, they do a great job, but every time I go there, it's the same people. Mm-hmm. It's the same two ladies, and when we had a debate a few weeks ago, there were more candidates than there were residents. So people need to know that those community groups are out there to help them. And I think that's another way that we can combat the violence. But I think the number one thing to do is really reinstate the community policing program. It's very, very important that we have more than just 3 police officers out there. And I get it, the walk and talk program, each police officer comes out of his vehicle and he walks around for a half hour. And I think that's great. I just believe it's not enough.
So we got a few questions on Facebook. So Marie Desrosiers says, what would you do to help with empty storefronts on E Ave? So how do we recruit new businesses to the empty storefronts?
Well, it's the only way you're going to recruit new businesses is fighting the crime. The reason why New Bedford has such a bad reputation is the only thing that you hear on the news is murder or addiction, drugs, and I think we need to do a better job in marketing New Bedford. And, we have a wonderful waterfront. Again, it was just in the newspaper that we're the #1 fishing port. And, instead of just focusing on the bad, we need to start focusing on the good of the city. But we also need to clean up. Again, if you drive along or walk along a Krishna Avenue or, you see a lot of littering. I mean, today I was driving along Ashley Boulevard and this guy got into his car and he dropped his paper cup on the street. That's unacceptable. Let's take some pride in our city. I live right near Brooklawn Park. Yeah. And, I walk my dog there every day, 3 or 4 times, and the garbage that's along there, and, the city workers try to do as much as they can. So again, we need to participate as residents of Ward 2 to help, clean up the city, and also let's not just focus on the negative. Let's talk about the positive of the city.
So Kay Madeira asked, do you feel that the meters on Acushnet Avenue affect the business ability to survive long term?
Yeah, I unfortunately, not unfortunately, I have talked about that issue, but I've been told it's not going to happen. There's no way. It's a moneymaker for the city, and that's the reality. It brings a lot of revenue into the city, but I agree, it does hurt businesses. And, many times I've come out of Economy Bakery at Nash Road and Acushnet Avenue, and I've got a ticket on my window because you think you can run in and do it. And, yeah, it hurts. I think there's got to be a better way. Yes, have the meters, but I don't know how we could fix it where it doesn't affect the business owner, because it truly is affecting a lot of businesses along the Acushnet Avenue. And it also affects that people that are parking on the side roads that don't have the meter. So when people come home from work, they have no parking because everybody who wants to go to the restaurants or the bakeries or go shopping, they're parking on the side streets because they don't want to have to pay for a meter. So, yeah, that's something I want to work on. I don't know how we can change that, but I'm willing to listen to anybody's idea.
So I'll jump to Mary Newby, her comment. She says, I agree that more police would help. But how are you going to pay for it? My property tax has gone up for 3 years in a row, and I'm on a fixed income. So everyone talks more projects, more police, more fire. We've got to end the blackouts, but then no one really has a solution for
Right.
how you're going to pay for it.
Right.
How would you pay for it?
Well, I want to work with the mayor and the city council and the police chief and anyone else to see if there's not only federal funding, but state funding that can help us. Homeland Security, the Justice Department, there's a lot of grants out there. And I talked about this before. We're a fishing port. We have an airport. We have trains. We have railroads around here. So this is an area that we could take advantage in going to Homeland Security and the Justice Department and see if there's funding to help beef up the police department. And I think through those programs and those grants, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but that's where I can come in and help find the money that we need to do that. We need to stop looking at us as being second-class citizens here in New Bedford. We need to work with our state reps and our federal reps and senators and go to the State House and also Washington, D.C., and get the money that is due for this area. We need a lot of help. We pay a lot of taxes. Again, the fishing port, the #1 fishing port in the United States. We bring in millions and millions of dollars into this state. It's about time that we get a little bit of it back.
So Mike, JD asked, and I've been pushing this issue, and I asked the mayor this last night. Do you feel the courts are tough enough? And the cops have been out, making a lot of busts lately, but the courts keep busting them out. So we just published an article, I want to say an hour ago, and I think there was a Fall River man busted in New Bedford selling fentanyl, and he had 20 convictions.
Yeah.
And, I pushed the mayor saying, we almost got to push the state legislators to come up with a requirement for New Bedford judges, people to live in New Bedford and judge in New Bedford. Do you have any ideas of how we can fix the courts, or are they not fixable, or are they not broken?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're not broken. I understand why they don't want to have the judges who live in the area also work in the area, because there is a fear that they can be paid off. So I'm not saying that would happen, but I believe that's the reason why they move the judges, so they don't work in the area that they live in. So I understand that. But I do believe that something needs to be done with the laws. And the judge can only do what the law states.
The 20 convictions, there's got to be more.
And I understand that. It's crazy. And what do you do about that is you look and see how the law is written and how we can change it. There's really nothing you can do about the judge. I mean, what are you going to do with him or her? I don't know, other than impeachment. I don't think that is a doable course. I think there are, like anything, very good judges whose hands are tied, and there are very bad judges who believe that there's no such thing as a criminal who comes before them. So let's look and see what the law says and how we can change that, and that's one of the things we need to do and work with the state representatives and senators to see what we can do to change that. Because you're right, somebody who comes before a judge more than 10 times, I mean, for God's sakes, more than 5 times, why is the book not thrown at that person and put in jail for just overnight or a week? Let's really punish the criminals.
So there's a question I thought might get some flavor of what you're about. Which current city councilor you think would kind of be like a mirror of you or represents your style? Something that you'd probably cling to right away.
Well, that's a really good question. Well, I don't know. I think I can work very well with all of them. I have a lot of respect for all the city councilors. I don't know. I like all of them. I think they all contribute very well to the city. I've known Brian Gomes for a very long time. I respect, Linda Morad. I mean, it's nice to see a lot of women. I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to, is to seeing, not that I have anything against men. I think they're great, and they have contributed a lot to the city council, but there are a lot of dynamic women who are running for the seats, and also a lot of them who are sitting in the chamber right now. So is there one person in particular? No, I think all of them. I think I can work very well with all of them. And that's one of the things I've talked about through this campaign is, we need to put our differences aside and work together, because what's going on in Ward 2 has easily spread out into the other wards and can easily, Ward 1 and Ward 3 and Ward 4, 5, and 6 can easily become Ward 2 overnight. So I want to be able to work with everybody to make sure that, we do right by the residents, not just of Ward 2, but the whole city.
For crime in the city, gangs in the city, a lot of youth. So any youth programs you consider, how do we get the kids out of these gangs? How do we get the kids from going into the lifestyle of crime?
Well, one of the things I talked about is, and I mentioned it to the mayor and some other people, I'd like to get Phillips School opened up and made into a North End community center, and help a lot of the young, kids in the area and their parents. I mean, I was a latchkey kid, and I was lucky that I had older brothers who, could take care of us while my parents worked. And not too many families have that ability or luxury. So I think it would be really nice to have a community center in the North End, because we don't. We have the Greater New Bedford Boys and Girls Club, but it's not in the North End. There's nothing in the North End for young kids. And I would like to see the Phillips School opened up, and let's get, different programs in there. Maybe let's get some tutoring, maybe students from, UMass Dartmouth and BCC getting credit for tutoring. Let's get these children off the streets and learning, some art, some music, maybe giving them a meal. Sometimes these kids only eat once a day. And I think it will be a good thing not only for the community, but for a lot of families who can't afford to send their children to camp. So that's one area that I'd like to see, the Phillips School, and also there are a lot of other buildings in the North End that I've been looking at to possibly see if we can open that up and creating a community center for young kids and their families.
So I'm sure you've been banging on a lot of doors out there.
I did that today.
What are you hearing from residents?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of residents, are not home, or they're afraid of opening the door, and I understand that. But those that I have spoken to, again, it's about the crime, and it's about high taxes. And unless we bring more revenue into the city, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to lower our taxes here. I really, I can honestly say at this point, there's just no way at this time that I could even fathom voting for another tax hike. People just can't afford that. We are chasing not only the residents, but the businesses away from the city because of our tax rates.
Okay, so I'll end it with a final question here. Ward 2 is going to take a community to really bring it out of where we can feel safe walking down North Front Street at 1 in the morning, or some of the places. What are you going to do to bring the community of Ward 2 together to actually stand up to crime, improve, clean the streets? You can bring the street cleaners all day long
Right.
on Krishna Avenue. If it just gets dirty the next day, what are you going to do?
Well, I'll be out there. I'm going to be out there every day, visiting the businesses and talking to the residents and getting people out. I'm bilingual. I speak Portuguese and English. I speak Spanish with a Portuguese accent. Luckily, that's the beautiful thing about New Bedford is the community that we have. I come from a family of immigrants, and I understand how hard it is to have a parent that doesn't know how to speak English, and it's very difficult to try to engage people who fear because they don't know how to speak your language. I will be out there working very hard every day to make sure that the residents know that I'm out there to help them clean up the streets. I'm out there with the businesses, helping them, letting people know that they're there. And, it's going to take everybody. It's going to take not just the residents of Ward 2, but everybody in this city to work together. If you see a crime happening, you have to let the police know. I understand the fear, but the police are not going to tell the criminal who reported them. So, we have to work together as a community, and I'll be the first one out there working with everybody.
Okay, so this was Maria Giesta. Edwin Cartagena declined to show up tonight. He let us know in advance, but we'll just let you know it's what didn't turn into a debate. It was more of a forum. Up next, give us about 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to have the Ward 1 City Council debate. We actually have both here, Melissa Costa and William Markey, so we'll learn about Ward 1. You can actually vote tomorrow at the City Hall if you can't make it on Tuesday. So you can vote tomorrow absentee, and you can vote on Tuesday, November 7th, 7 in the morning to 8 p.m. at night.
Right.
If you don't vote, don't complain. We don't want to hear it on Facebook if you didn't vote.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
Please vote. It's very important that you vote.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a
Mary.
good evening.